guys and gals, how we doing today? We're back with another episode here on the channel, and today's topic is all about imaginary numbers. That is a fan favorite. I absolutely hated this when I was still going through school, but it was very much a needed kind of thing to know, especially on that FE exam. So, what are we being asked here? So the term down below. It is in parentheses 1 minus I. I know I wrote it kind of funky. I'll write it a little bit better. In parentheses squared over 1 plus I in parentheses squared. And it wants to know where I equals a negative 1 to the power of 1/2. For those of you who don't know, that's just a fancy way of writing it like this. It's asking if I equals the square root of negative 1. For those of you who don't know, that doesn't work because that's impossible. But again, imaginary numbers are impossible because they're imaginary, hence the name. It's a beautiful name. It's right on the nose. So, like we do anything with these videos, take the time, pause, and try and solve it on your own. Come back, let's then reconvene and try and solve it together. So, we're going to jump right into it. I'm assuming you all have paused it at some point. We are going to try and recall our imaginary numbers here. So what we have to know is the simplest approach is the easiest. That's Occam's razor. The easiest is always probably the most simplistic solution. So right now what we have is a y minus I times a y minus I on top, 1 plus I, and that parenthesis, 1 plus I again. And so what we can do is we can do a FOIL. For those of you who aren't familiar, a FOIL is nothing more than a fancy terminology for first, outer, inner, and then last. So keeping that in mind, your first, your outer, your inner, sorry, I drew that wrong. Your first, your outer, your inner, and then your last. And then that's how you would FOIL. And you just have to do that for the top, the bottom, and go about your day. So, erasing all of my fine, magnificent handwriting there, what we can come to do is write the FOIL out of 1 minus 2I plus an I squared. So, now the bottom, as you may have probably guessed, is nothing more than 1 plus 2I plus I squared. So, where do we go from here? Simple. We use what they gave us, which I've been kind of practicing on the past videos. We plug and chug at this point. So, what we need to do is we realize that I is very simple. And what we can do is we can do a 1 minus 2I. And you can plug all your i's in and try and get some kind of complicated mess, but the easiest approach is to just start off with what looks best. If you have a square root and you know you have a square, they cancel. So that's just practice and just knowing a few things. So what you can do then is you come up with this puppy. Okay, square that all over 1 plus 2I negative 1, square that, and this irreversible mess becomes negative 1 here, negative 1 here. So your negative 1's cancel out here and here, right? So now you're left with a negative 2I over a positive 2i. Now, again, I already knew the answer to this question. I also know that just trying to plug and chug one at a time is usually the best solution. And because that's what they gave us, we are able to go ahead and come to the realization that we don't need to plug and chug for these i's because they cancel. So what you're left with is a negative 2 over 2 or negative 1. Beautiful, simplistic answer. Just the key notes to take away from this is knowing to FOIL, knowing to plug and chug, and knowing that you don't have to use an imaginary number all the time and understand those, individual rules because they cancel already. And by doing that, there's usually some kind of answer on the FE exam that will help you guys out. It's supposed to be easy, it's supposed to be quick, it just looks overly complicated because that's how they do it. So if y'all have any questions, comments, or concerns, please leave them down below. Make sure to subscribe and watch out for our next videos. Y'all have a good one, and I'll catch you on the next one.